Great. Okay. We have a very good session set up here in which we're going to take a deep dive on Cynthia's project and paper. So I'm going to pull that up and we are going to go straight in. One thing I'm going to do, like I always do, is check our Jotform link just to see if we have any other submissions that I need to plan for. But I don't believe I've seen any come in for today. But I will just check that very briefly. And let me go ahead and share my screen. So I hope some of you, I know it's relatively short on its own. We do have one come in from Joanne about covariates and path analysis. So I'm going to, hang on, let me get my screen going here and share that with you. So I'll just pull that out before we go too far. 1 second. Here we go. So yeah, it does look like Joanne wanted to learn covariates and path analysis. So Joanne, thanks for mentioning that. I think what we'll do is this is especially this path analysis is really fundamental to quantitative work like they've done here. So they're using structural equation modeling. So we'll talk about path analysis covariates. I personally do not like structural equation modeling for a number of reasons that I can get into. Now might not be the best time to get into that, but definitely, Joanne, that's something that we'll be sure to cover as we go along. So let me go ahead and pull up Cynthia's submission, which I believe is in our Slack group, and go through that because there are a few things to point out. I think what we're going to do is we're going to run through. First, we'll look at the methods together before going really through the Excel summary table and looking a little bit more in detail about how Cynthia is extracted from the studies. And then we'll go through and take a look at the results. So for guys, if you haven't seen it already, this is posted in general right here. And so we're gonna pull up the first draft, and do feel free after, if you like, to send some comments over to Cynthia. I know that she'd really appreciate and welcome any of your thoughts at this stage. So I'm gonna pull that here, and then we'll go into the worksheet in just a moment. But I'll go ahead and download it and pull it onto the desktop. Okay. So now one of the things is that no matter what your field of what area, really the structure is going to be quite similar and common that you're going to face. So here we have the title, which is looking pretty good. And so let's go straight through the methods. So I'm just going to edit as we go along, and guys do jump in, and you may have some other ideas and things. So something's a little bit off here. So we just want to say following best practices for systematic reviews. And Cynthia, I generally prefer using first person when possible, and you're doing that. So we followed the Prisma guidelines and pre-registered the study protocol and search strategy. So you have this here. And I'll go ahead and make this all markup so you guys can see what I'm doing. This part here, your 3 questions, go ahead and as a placeholder, just put that in the intro. This can all come back here. This is kind of where you're setting out the last paragraph of your intro, what your study did. Let's go ahead and make this italicized rather than bold, because this is all part of your methods. Okay. We use 3. I hope you guys can all see the screen. If you can't, do jump in and interrupt me. So we use 3 search approaches to identify the relevant articles. So this is a little bit out of order. You want to start first with the leftmost branch of the Prisma. So first we searched this here. And so this is really the core part of your search strategy. So first we searched database for journal articles. So you don't need this. This potential language bias because you may be missing out on some key Chinese literature. It needs to come way down here to the bottom. So we'll go ahead and drop your limitations in your discussion. So summary findings and study, we'll just create summary limitations. So which really comes here. So go ahead and move that to the right place. Again, like if you see the session on preparing your manuscript with Mohammed and others, you'll know that you want to get yours as close to journal quality as possible. So all these figures need to go to the very end of the document, where you have a table and figure set, and then you put it back in later. Okay, so first, we kind of want to explain in the methods. You'll see this, Mohammed, as well, that you have permutations on the keywords. We used permutations of 3 main keywords involving workplace mistreatment, health and well-being, and China, as follows. Right, so you've got bullying. So this logic is not correct, because it's not just or all of these things. You have 3 blocks, so it's an and, right? So basically, it's kind of like this. I think discourtesy or disrespect, or China, and I'm not really 100% sure. There might be other words for China in there, but that's okay. It's not, I think you put an and here. So this needs to be and. All right. And so you've got 3 blocks. And we're just keeping the order consistent, maintaining parallel syntax with the previous component. Detailed search. So the detailed search terms, I think you exactly in appendix 1, and hope that it provides everything. I'll check later that you've got that. Then next, we supplemented the articles using 2 citation search approaches. And so I don't know what these 7 articles are. This just kind of comes out of nowhere. So Cynthia, you got to explain where these came from. They just kind of appear from nowhere. How did you even find those? So that's not unclear.
What are citation search approaches?
Well, you reviewed the reference. You just said here, you searched the articles that the reference list. These are articles that these articles cited. So you search the citations of these articles, and then it looks like you searched Google Scholar. We further searched Google Scholar to obtain studies, particularly from gray literature or working papers, which fit the inclusion criteria. Dissertation, yeah, don't worry about that. That's not an important detail. So this is your inclusion exclusion criteria. So you need, then here, just you want this to be very linear. So here you need to say how many articles did this initial search yield? And then from that, remember, right, we just want to linearly describe the Prisma. How many did you go through? So key search. Okay. So this kind of comes here. And so this is a little unclear. Our keyword search returned 1,067 results. So this is good. But this Google Scholar search for studies citing these, This is a very the Google Scholar. This is a little bit strange what you've done here. So are these kind of seminal papers in the field, Cynthia? Why did you choose these papers?
They're the ones that conceptualized abusive supervision, workplace incivility, and
Cynthia, you got to turn up your volume. We can't hear you.
hello.
Cynthia, you're where, let me, Cynthia, you there?
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so basically here, this is really quirky to do this. So did you do that because you just felt you weren't getting enough articles here?
Because when I did the error, the error, there was two papers that I couldn't find on Web of Science, but I found on Google Scholar, but it was linked to one of this abusive supervision by TEPA.
Okay, but that's for finding the paper. Is your Prisma in here? Here, okay, here's Prisma. Right. So this is okay, let's see if we can factor this out. Because this looks like mainly your studies came from this left branch, but this 1658 is you only got 3 from this branch. It's okay. This is not bad. This 1658 was probably a lot more than you needed to go through. But that's okay. So it sounds like you added, so 67 came from here, but these numbers still aren't quite adding up, because if you had, I'm just trying to figure out how many came from each branch. So 318 minus 244 is going to be 74. So your numbers aren't adding up. The numbers aren't adding up. So you have 318 minus this leaves you 74. And here you excluded 3. So this is a total of 77. Because this is a very common thing in your Prisma. Make sure your numbers add up. Cynthia, you've got to check this because something's off here. This looks like you pulled in 3 from this branch and 74 from the left branch. And that's something we need to clarify anyway here. And you've got to explain, because this is a bit unusual. Explain why you searched for all the articles citing these 3 papers. It's not bad that you've done it. It's just quite inefficient. So others of you who want to do a supplement of your articles, this can be a good thing to do, but I generally recommend you skip this step because it's not necessary. Most of you will not need the right branch of the Prisma if you've set up your search in a good way. And Cynthia, you already had, look like 74 articles coming in. Now, if you wanted to use Google Scholar or something to help you with the retrieval, that's fine. That doesn't matter. You found the paper in the online database and you accessed it through Google Scholar. That's just a question about retrieval. That's not a matter of inclusion or exclusion. I hope that makes sense. So I really almost, yeah, you've got to come up with a justification. Otherwise, I would just say you Google search and found some, we need to think about this justification. I don't have clarity on that because it's just a little quirky. Okay. Next we supplemented these here. So yeah, so this is going to need to come down here because you don't even say it. We further search Google Scholar for studies citing them to obtain as these were, Or maybe do you mean that these were 3 studies you found from Google Scholar?
Because from other literature, I mean, systematic reviews, they found the people, the initial authors who conceptualized this definition of
Okay.
abusive supervision, workplace incivility, and then they used their scales. to
So,
study.
okay, Cynthia, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. So I'm just gonna go through and say that if these were quite seminal papers, they need to be cited in the introduction. And given some prominence here. And I'm just gonna look at them very briefly to check that they're really prominent papers in your field. So yeah, looks like a prominent paper in the field. That's great. So we'll we'll leave these, but these don't, it's still weird because these aren't really about China. So it's a pretty inefficient to go through 462 citations here. It's just not, again, you just made life a little bit hard on yourself to only find 3 papers. And I still don't get where you're getting these 1560, because this has 136, that has 462. And this has this okay, well, this has a whole lot, 4,230, but still I'm not replicating your numbers. Maybe you used this study instead, but it doesn't look like it because it's 2000. So I don't even get your number from the citation 1658. I'm not able to replicate, Cynthia, your number of citations for these papers. So there's 2 things you've really got to clean up that if I spot in under 5 minutes, reviewers are going to spot and think something's wrong. We'll definitely get your paper rejected. And that's the Prisma numbers don't add up. And this part about the Google Scholar search is not well argued, and the numbers don't add up either. So continuing to check on these, however, appear to add up. So that is good. Okay, so let's go the 5 criteria. So I like this. I like that you've justified why. One thing I'd like on your keywords is you don't have to do it, but if you can cite your nearest neighbor papers
But the 7 articles
used to identify these permutations, that's always a good thing to kind of armor up your paper and make it robust to criticisms.
Hello?
Yeah, Cynthia, it's too hard for me to hear you. So I think I'm just going to progress through and keep going. Right. So let me take this out. Come here. Okay. So we applied 5 criteria to select primary studies. First in line with Chi and colleague study, the review examined. Okay. So but these numbers again, Cynthia, this isn't adding up. You're saying here 367 articles were irrelevant and removed before the initial search. This doesn't quite make sense. Here, what you're doing is just listing your inclusion criteria. Second, only included published journals, only included empirical articles, which can, you use this conceptualization. Okay. If you could be more clear about what that conceptualization is, be clear about what this is referring to. It's from our writing principles, clear and definite. And then you said there are 5 criteria, but then you only list 4. So there's just in general, Cynthia, just in general, a lot of really tightening up that's got to be done here to be precise, because this here you've already said you've already limited it to China in your search. I mean, you could apply it again, but this is really these criteria are tricky because this mistreatment was work job related. Isn't this the conceptual framework that you already have before? So I'm not really seeing a full 5 criteria here. So have a think about this. I think this is conceptualization. of mistreatment. You've kind of, again, you've already said this here. Examine work or job related mistreatment from customers, coworkers, or supervisors. Just cleaning this up a bit. Fifth, study participants were residents of China, Chinese firms. Okay. So now we got 382. Removed before screening. No, this is screening. Screening is already up here. Did you, how many duplicates? You didn't describe how many duplicates were removed following the Prisma. I'd encourage you to go back and watch the session on the methods with Mohammed, because we go through and that is in the Kajabi course, and actually deal with a lot of this, but duplicate records removed. So of these 380 were duplicates and 2 were not in English, and so were removed, leaving a total of 685 records for screening. So guys, just to say, if you get to this point, make sure you follow closely the guidance in the method section. And look, all we're doing, there's no magic here. We're just summarizing what's in the Prisma, just step by step as we go through. Now this 367 are not relevant. So they were not relevant in the screening. So here's where the 367 comes in. You can see, Cynthia, this was not in a linear order following the Prisma. The writing is very simple because you're just very simply writing and following the steps that you did in the Prisma. That makes it easier for you to write. It makes it easier for the reviewers to understand. 3 were irrelevant. Why were these irrelevant? Were did not 367 articles of the 685 screened were not related to interpersonal mistreatment or health and well-being, and so were excluded. We were able to obtain or retrieve. We're able to retrieve all the 318 articles. So this is a little bit puzzling. You have 431 eligible articles. I don't know where that 431 number is coming from. I don't see 431 anywhere. So that's why I like the splitting the screen and writing side by side like this. Just makes it easy that everything is kind of sutured up and tightly woven together. So in the chat, yeah, Cornelia, no problem. No problem if you have to dash. So okay, each abstract was reviewed twice for inclusion. No, usually what you have is 2 reviewers will do this. So just take this out because that's a little quirky. So we're able to read. So exactly. So now you're at eligibility. To fill out for eligibility. We excluded several articles on closer inspection because one that so you've already listed these criteria, so don't have to list them again. And usually the way you do this is just n equals 32. The studies were not empirical or published articles. This is published empirical articles. Mistreatment happen in contexts other than the workplace. So this is good. No, most of this is good. Look, I'm intentionally being fierce. Wow, 57 articles have been retracted. That's an incredible amount of retracted articles. I mean, wow, this how do they get retracted, all those articles? Okay, I'm just out of curiosity. That's an incredible amount of retracted articles in this literature. Yeah, I wonder if this says something about the quality of Chinese research, but that is a lot of retractions. Check that. Just check that. I mean, this needs a comment because this is a huge amount. It's usually an article getting retracted is a relatively rare event. It should be a relatively rare event, but this is at this stage a big chunk of your sample. So do have a look at that. They were not quantitative studies. Okay, so this is they were not quantitative studies. Okay, good. So this is nice. You did a nice job outlining all this here. This left a total of 70. Right, but can you see how the numbers don't add up because I'm counting 74. So let's just see if these not articles, I'm checking again if your numbers add up. Not published articles, you see here, you say 42 and here you have 20. So I don't know which is correct. Here you say outcomes not related to well-being, 51, and here you say 70. So yeah, Cynthia, you really gotta check this. But because this your paper was just flat get rejected. If that doesn't add up. Okay. Yep. Extracted these things. Good. Quality assessment. Good. Let's go that. Okay, this is good. Reviewed each published article. Now when you're talking about the two reviewers, the Squice for methodological quality, using quality previously. I would name it here. Name the tool here. Okay, this is good. Let's look in the chat. Ooh, from Google Scholar. Yeah, exactly. Good question, Aditya. Combine the two tables. But retracted is a special thing in the literature where somebody's been like intellectually dishonest or falsified data or something. So really, like you're saying, check retraction because it's very, very strange. Okay. One other thing is a point you'll have seen me made elsewhere. When you're editing, you can't edit properly if you've justified like this. You can't catch typos and other howlers. So I personally hate it because it's just a recipe, especially working with colleagues and track changes for having errors creep in. So I'm going to go back and left justify this here to avoid this issue. I'm going to go ahead and get your figures out of here. Now, these figures, I'd encourage you to go rewatch the session as one of our data sessions where I go talk about making professional figures that will definitely help you bring these to journal quality because currently they are not they're not near journal quality. And it's just something you need to make to tighten up. So figure one is here. And this title is also a bit quirky. Sum of prevalence by country. This metric doesn't make any sense. So yeah, you wouldn't sum up prevalence. You would put in figure one exactly. So this is good. I really like this. Make that into a figure. But this figure, look at the scale. You've got again the numbers as shown in figure one. This doesn't show this in figure one. So yeah, Cynthia, you got to check this. It's really, really important. In general, 3 significant digits is a general standard. Again, you'll see that in preparing the manuscript for publication. That session Muhammad and I did. And the reason Muhammad and I had a bunch is he just happened to be out first. And I thought that would be helpful for a lot of you. So guys, I do really encourage you to take advantage of some of these training videos because you're going to get a lot of value out of it. You need to cite for each of these. Where did you, so you made this figure yourself. You need to put in the notes the citations where these data came from. I have to say though, I think you've pulled these together from multiple studies, which I really like. I don't understand where these estimates came from. Are these your estimates that you've kind of consolidated from the studies? Where do these come from? It just needs some citation. I read that and I'm like, okay, where did this come from? But I really like these figures because this is pretty damning. Half of workers experience mistreatment in Chinese firms. That's a pretty bad situation. That really calls for some change. That's very important. And I'm really glad at the end of the day that we have this prevalent section. I wasn't sure whether we would keep it, but this is very powerful. So I like this a lot. So it's a little confusing why you have South Korea in here, because your inclusion and exclusion didn't include South Korea or Taiwan. So that's also a little puzzling, that this would be in here at all. It makes me think maybe you took it from just one paper. I don't even think you need a figure here. And when you say this is the average of what? From several studies? So you just really got to explain a whole lot of this, Cynthia. I mean, you can't assume your readers are going to know these things. It's like one of those in our writing sessions. Have sympathy for your reader. They want to understand you. That's why they're reading it, but they may not be able to. And you can see you're shifting here. These are 2 significant digits. These are 3. Before you had 4. You just want everything to be nice and tight. So 3 significant digits. I'm just put the comment here. 3 sig digits throughout the paper. Okay. 4 types. So I like this a lot. So one thing I want in the results is first, and you'll see this as well in other sessions we did with Cornelia. It's kind of like your description of the data. Tell us about what's in the 70 studies. Were, how many from mainland China? How many, I don't know, the main details of the studies so that the researchers can now know, okay, what's in this, you went fishing, you fished out a bunch of studies, you threw some fish back. What's in your final net? So give us that kind of descriptive statistics, and then give some signposting. So, first we report summary prevalence estimates, indicating the magnitude of or the scale and frequency of workplace mistreatment in China, followed by disaggregating studies into by who was responsible for the mistreatment of workers. And you went in order of what? Okay, this is confusing. Let's see. Employers. Yeah, so I wanted you to go through kind of the maybe supervisors, co-workers, and customers, or however you decided to do it. Just give some signposting. This is our standard signposting to let readers know where you're taking them. 4 most common. Okay, 4 were consistently reported in most. You want to be, instead of saying most, this is actually kind of redundant. 4 types of we just say featured prominently. Verbal abuse, sexual and sexual harassment. Between 2010 and 22, we haven't lived to 22 yet. Why did you pick these dates? I don't understand where these dates come from. Is this from one study? Then just say one study found, and inside it there's we need these citations here. Okay. This graphical representation, I don't think, um, if you didn't make this, I don't think you need it. I want to focus on things that you found and you did. So where is, oh, no, figure two was, wait a second, figure two is this. Figure two is that. Okay, Cynthia, I think you're citing, I don't know what you're citing, figure two. Or maybe you're wanting to say the prevalence. So figure two summarizes estimates from multiple studies of the prevalence of let's split the screen again so I can see them together. And so guys, some of you watching, you may see some of these kinds of tensions and challenges and what you've got. That's fine. I also, Cynthia, I would not I don't know if I have the Excel sheet for this, but I just want dots on a plot. Don't connect any lines here. You don't have enough data to even try to get at a trend. These are just different. So I think this is a very powerful and a very an important figure in your paper. So I really want to bring this to journal quality. And so let me actually check if I've got that figure, because it's really going to be an important one to work through. And I want to spend a little bit of our time here to bring that to journal quality. If that figure is not in here, which is it here? It's not here. So Cynthia, go ahead and drop that in the chat while I'm working on this here. Because we want to get this right. Also, one thing. This is your quality assessment. Okay. This must be your extraction table here, which something. Okay, it's hiding some of the articles. Some weird stuff is going on. Let me see if I can get rid of the filters. I think you got some filters on here. Yeah, so I need to figure out how to unhide some of this. Looks like there was a filter. You've done something that, okay, now I think I've gotten rid of it. I think maybe you have comments here. Oh, okay. I was checking for the full text. That's fine. Okay, now I can see everything. So let's freeze panes here. Yeah, Cynthia, go ahead, unfreeze panes. I'm gonna freeze panes again here. Go ahead and send me that figure so I can try to work on it here. This is nice. This is nice. You did a nice job. Detail findings. Okay, Cynthia, I have to say you've done a very nice job. I like what you've done here a lot. Really nice. One thing is, so the independent variable, dependent variable, I wanted to see you code in here who was the purpose, right? Because you're summarizing your studies. Okay, excellent. That's what you called source. Okay, that's good. Source is not mentioned. So we need to have supervisor. So, right. So really at the top, we need to say supervisor and colleagues. Let me go ahead and sort and custom sort by the source. I would put the source way earlier to make this easier to follow, because this is quite an important component of your study. I probably shouldn't have done this for the entire document, but okay, here we go. Colleagues. So of your however many articles you have in here, now you have, wait a second. Cynthia, now I'm confused. Now you've got 167 articles in here. Now I'm really confused. What's going on? There's 167 in here. Maybe okay, maybe you split them up, the same article, and you coded it No, yes. Okay, so maybe you've coded them double. We need though the original to help you make summary statistics. So where you have these duplicate entries, why do you have duplicate entries? Because you put in a different result. Okay, yeah. So for example, what I was going to go do here was I was going to summarize. You'll see we did this with Cornelia, so we made an extra sheet. So we had one without the duplicate entries, and then we made others with duplicates where we might have had multiple findings from the same study, which is fine. But for example, I wanted to just do a count of, okay, of your studies, how many involved the supervisor? So right here, X for how many looked at mistreatment from the supervisor, n equals X, right? The coworkers. I want that. Those are the kinds of things of your summary statistics that you want up here. And did you send the Excel? No, I still don't see the Excel, so I can't help. Yeah, you split those. You want to keep two separate tables there. So you have one that's intact that's going to help you with your summary stats, and then one that's disaggregated. So when you do that, just make a sheet. So let's make the sheet. You've made it difficult for yourself for your naming. Just say like, detailed breakdown maybe, and then maybe you create another sheet. Let me insert a sheet. I'm having to dodge my camera here. An insert worksheet, kind of that's just the however many articles, the main extraction, and you'll use that for your summary statistics. So I'm going to copy all this over, put this here, and I might be able to get these duplicates quite quickly. Let's see if I can do it quickly. Get rid of those duplicates for you. It's going to take me too much time to do. And nobody wants to watch that. So let me get rid of that. So don't worry about that. This figure, though, I'd like to help you on this figure because it's very important. But basically what you need to do, like I said in the others, get rid of the grid lines, get rid of the title, fix this axis, get rid of these lines, tons of different things, get rid of 2022 because we're not in 2022. It just looks funny. Yeah, and then it'll be there. But this is really nice. And then you need to just put in the citations where these different data points are from, and you need to list in the title the number of studies: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, plus 6, so 25, plus it looks, oh, I can't count that. So anyway, just write the number of studies. So some 30 something. It might be the number of studies and the number of estimates, because you might have multiple estimates from the same studies. So really good though, really good. This prevalence section turned out great. I had a feeling that it would. Okay, so here we go. The impact on health and well-being. Supervisor study in 2020, 29. So good. N equals 29. It looks like you have that there.
David, could I ask a question? I was just trying to understand why would there be value to what Cynthia did with the same study having two different cells? Because apparently it's had two different results. So I didn't really follow why that would be, meaning not what you're doing now, eventually.
Yeah. So great question, Susan. So sometimes you might have studies. So Cornelia, in her study, she might have had one study measured she was looking at social capital and oral care. And suppose one study looked at social capital and it looked at multiple measures of oral health care. So the same study looked at prevention and, I don't know, root canals. So she coded both because both of those estimates are meaningful and important, even though they came from the same study. Or, for example, could be some studies measured social support and measured social networks and measured trust in your community.
So it's like two different research questions or two objectives.
Exactly. So it actually answered two different research questions. So maybe it found no finding for one, but found a finding for the other. So you can't just lump that in and say, oh, the whole study was positive or the whole study was negative. But it was, in this case, it's like each of those findings was quite relevant to her research question. And the same thing goes here with some studies might look at abuse by a supervisor and might look at abuse by a colleague. And so we're going to actually break that study in two and summarize it in both the supervisor mistreatment and the colleague mistreatment. But for just summarizing the overall summary, we need to kind of just have the list of the studies intact first. to keep yourself organized, and then a separate Excel sheet to then extract that further. So no, what Cynthia did is very detailed and good. And you can see this. I really like this sheet. I think the only thing I would say in just organizing it is I would pull the source. This is quite an important column for your study, because it's how you're kind of subcategorizing, is how you're formatting your results actually. So whoops, and I just messed that up. I want to insert cut cells here. I would put it here because this is kind of how you're describing things. Countries, see, I'm still confused about this, how we have South Korea in here when our inclusion criteria was just China. So I don't Cynthia, that's one I have to say I don't understand. I don't know how to fix it. I don't understand it, because to me this shouldn't be in here if you put your inclusion criteria was China. Yeah. So unless you coded country in a different way, but you said in your search term, you had a term for China, and you said the study participants had to be in China. So maybe you're referring to country as the authors were South Korea, but it
You
still
said
doesn't.
China has 5 countries, but I didn't know that South Korea is part of China
No,
either.
it's not. I mean, China may be expanding, but to my knowledge, it hasn't taken over South Korea yet. Yeah, but South Korea is not China, Cynthia. I think we have Stephanie in the group from South Korea, so I don't think South Korea would be very happy to be taken over by China at the moment. So have a think about that. This might be something you could put in the discussion. Say, you know, our findings are consistent with other studies, or they really put the scale of the problem in China in perspective. You find the prevalence of mistreatment in China was 50%. Well, if we look at the other studies find in Taiwan and South Korea, is much, much lower, suggesting that there really is a problem in China. I think that goes in the discussion, but you've made very clear in your inclusion exclusion that, right, coming back here, that, right, your keyword, you limited to China or Chinese, and you limited here to, right, geographical location was outside of China. So I don't understand how those articles got in there. So really check that, because somebody's going to look at that and say, well, you didn't follow your criteria. You said, so yeah, I just don't want that to come back. And I also want to make sure this limited on China, the one area where I feel like you might get some flack, it could be on this. And some people might say well-being needs to be with a hyphen. Now, this is quite important. You'll see Mohammed, as his paper got comments from colleagues, what was one of the things that people attack? Our colleague Sandro Galileo was concerned Mohammed hadn't captured minorities and in well enough in search term. And Mohammed was able to go back, oh, but hang on, wait a second. My search term actually included all these things that wasn't initially made clear enough. And then our colleague was very happy with it. So Mohammed could say, oh, I actually anticipated that comment. So I 2 points of weakness I see here potentially are people might say that this could, maybe there are studies that have China, but they don't actually list China in the title. But that's okay. I think it's fine. I think it's defensible. This well-being, sometimes the well-being is with a hyphen, and I'm worried you might not capture those. Well-being is very rarely written, just well-being is one word. Usually it's written well-being like this, but check it. It may be that you definitely count those studies as well, and in which case that's perfectly fine. Okay. Continuing through here. So yeah, but as I said, this I think is really a magnificent figure. It's really fantastic, and I'm really glad you put that together. So definitely work on that. And Sedalia, thanks for offering to help Cynthia with that. I know I pick on you a lot, but Sedalia, you're just so good with the graphics. Okay, so let me come back. These perpetrators of mistreatment, great. So you see here, you call them perpetrators, but in your Excel table you call it source. You're just stay with it. I just call it source actually. Source or type or something. Just pick one label and stick with it. Either you call it the source or the or what it is. So supervisors were the most prominent perpetrators of mistreatment, followed by Yeah, so here's the outcomes. See, this is where I wanted you to go through and now start talking about the studies. So you haven't really gone through. Okay. So we need to talk about the studies. These things I don't think are going to be very relevant. Unless I think maybe you could, unless this is something you made. If this is something you've made, it's relevant. But if you just took it from existing study, I don't think it's particularly, I don't think it adds a lot of value to your research. Oh, you made it. Oh, fantastic. Well, then that's better. Then I kind of want you to put that in the discussion as kind of an interpretation of the study. So interpreting all my studies together, I've come up with an innovative conceptual framework for what's going on and what the evidence shows. That's really great. That's interpreting your studies further. Remember, the results is you're just dumping the results. The discussion is where you're going to interpret those results. So really good what you've done. Move it to the result. Move it to the discussion section. Okay. So mistreatment. Yeah. So outcomes here. So here's where we have impact and mistreatment on health and well-being. So I wanted you to summarize this by. I wanted you to have a block talking about, okay, I'm going to talk about these 3 articles now and what impact that had on health and well-being. Then I'm going to talk about the colleagues, what that had on health and well-being, then the customers, and then the ones which did not specify. I'd put these at the end. And you're kind of jumping between using numbers. Right. Anything over the number 8, just be consistent. Usually put the number. See, like you have 1 physical and 1 digital. This is quirky. 1, and then you spell out 1. Why? Just write 1. So usually there's some general standards. Journals are going to differ on this. Sometimes they have a different cutoff depending on which citation system they're using. My rule of thumb is if I'm listing numbers and I have a sequence and a pattern of just numbers, I like to continue with the numbers and I make an exception to that. In general, otherwise, if it's just something like this, a one-off sentence, anything above the number 8 or above, I list the number. It's just one of those quirky things. Here, this is italicizing the N. You could italicize, but I didn't italicize further, so just keep it consistent. So some of these are just some general cleaning things, but again, I'm being very fierce and maybe harsh because I want to get this to journal standard, and because I think you generally got some great publishable material here. So these are, this is good. This is good. Okay, good. So I want you to write how many papers. Instead of just in some cases, how many cases? This doesn't tell us a whole lot. Was there any pattern? Why? So demographic features. I don't think this is relevant to your study. This is just not relevant to your research question. So I would delete this. So this is good. This is kind of the synthetic thing. I really wanted to see, but this is here. You're kind of talking about these biases. This kind of goes in the quality assessment where you're talking about weaknesses in the studies. I wanted to understand, I mean, your clear question is, does it cause more anxiety to have mistreatment from a supervisor? The big patterns I would be looking for are, does the impact of mistreatment differ based on who it's from? Maybe it's much worse if you get mistreated by a supervisor and you feel no control and you feel really under them. Or does the impact differ based on what type, right? Maybe sexual harassment is going to be way worse for people than verbal abuse. I don't know. But those are kind of the 2 biggest questions I think you need to try to answer in your analysis. And that's the other thing. So how many for mainland China? How many, you want to put this up here at the top? Oh, and you had or did not specify. I just spotted this was n equals 19. So yeah, what types of abuse? And you have this, but not really specified. Verbal abuse, n equals x, and set that out. Emotional abuse. You should be able to summarize this from your descriptive statistics quite readily. And that will tighten things up. Okay. So yeah, so I think you can keep the structure like this. I personally like going through the studies on the supervisors followed by this. You could also organize the types of abuse, summarizing by types of abuse. But here you've kind of just lumped them all together and looked at the different types of you summarize by the outcome. That's okay. That's okay. You want to again put numbers here. Numbers of the studies. And that's good. I think this is a good stopping point. We won't be able to get through everything. But yeah, this table moves down to the end. So move this stuff on the endogeneity biases, move to the quality assessment section. Oops. And I'm also aware that your paper is getting quite long in this results section. So some levels of detail will need to be out. I like the mediators. I like this section and I like the moderating section a lot. 52. Yeah, I kind of want to know how many studies tested these and just kind of highlight which were the most prominent ones. And maybe there is a summary table or a summary figure you can come up with to report that, kind of like what Maria's been doing on hers, finding ways to summarize the air pollution studies. So have a think about how you can summarize this in a table or figure. And the same with the mediators. Maybe link with yeah, I think this is gonna be this is gonna come later again, because if I look at, let me just pull back your figure that I deleted and see if you've actually been able to summarize some things there. But I'm not okay, hang on, now I'm fine. Now I'm losing the figure. Let me go back to the original. That will enable me to see your figure one more time. Yeah, this doesn't exactly, this is the thing, it doesn't really summarize. So if you could say that this is a list, but the problem is this list doesn't tell us which of these were found to be important. Now what you could do on this would take you some time, is negative mood, then put the citation for each study. So that'll be citation 1, anxiety citation 2, each study that found this to play a role. So that could be quite nice. So that if you do it that way and you say, okay, these are the different studies, then it works. Then this works as a result. But you know, it's hard because are these all the positive factors? So I guess these so if this works, we need to clean it up. This is kind of wigging out here for some reason. This works to include if put this works to include if you add a citation to each study evaluating this component. Then this works, and that could be very nice. Or showing a positive relationship with this component. But it's kind of confusing here that a little bit, this is a little bit confusing here. I think this is maybe your framework that you end up in the conclusion here. Or this could even go in the potentially in the introduction. We have to think about this. This I think is either going to be in the introduction or their introduction, for the discussion, because this kind of sets the frame of your analysis. So I'm leaning towards discussion, or sorry, the introduction. I think this would go better in the introduction to kind of set out kind of the structure of your analysis. Yeah.
Then you could
But
you
yeah,
could possibly figure out which of them have the biggest impact in terms of on the employees who are.
exactly. That's one thing I feel like I'm really missing, Susan, in the analysis here of the data.
I'm not reading it, but I get where you're going with that. I
Yeah.
have one question that's really basic. So I see that you're doing a lot of editing. My question is, the Prisma that people like, not the Prisma, sorry, the Prospero registration.
Yep.
Is it common for the write-up to be very different? I mean, obviously it can't be different in terms of concept, you know,
Yep.
but like how different is because I see you're making lots of comments on this particular one about, you know, but I'm just wondering, is
No,
the
because
method set?
yeah, no, because this is okay. So if we have a problem, if we go back and change this now, that's
Right,
kind of
because it's
locked in.
already been registered, so.
Exactly. So that we can't change. This is
Okay.
so I'm just changing kind of the search and the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hope this will be okay. I'm a little worried about this well-being.
So
one.
usually the text is like, is it repeated or like
What
the
do you-
method, is the method repeated in the paper?
Yeah, well, this is the same method as is going to be
Okay.
summarized in the Prisma, right? The idea of Prisma in the registering the protocol is you kind of handcuff yourself to say, this is what I'm going to do, and then you actually have to do it.
But you don't
So-
have to rewrite it just for the paper, do you?
Well, you're writing your method section here. Your Prospero will ask you questions about components of your method, but I recommend finishing up your methods right as you do your Prospero as the most efficient time. Just kind of, it's just a little more natural to write everything up as you go along in kind of at the appropriate step. So how do you analyze for the impact? I'm not sure what you mean, Cynthia, but I want to see if you see any pattern showing up when you analyze the impact on well-being by the who did the mistreatment by the supervisor, and then look at the type to see if verbal abuse was worse, or sexual harassment, or any of those, which had worse impacts on health and well-being. If you see any pattern, that's something you're gonna have to do, that kind of chopping and slicing and looking at different ways and different angles in the Excel spreadsheet. But this is coming along really well. So thanks for bearing with me. I know we've gone right on an hour, and I was a little late coming over from the Facebook session, setting everything up, because we did that one with Courtney. But Cynthia, I just want to give you a big thanks again for being willing to share this with the group, because I know you're putting yourself out there, sharing this. I really like what you've done. I think I'm really, really happy with the way that the prevalence section, I wasn't sure this was going to come out, but with your summary figure, I think this can be really, really nice. I really like the story that this is going to show. Like, there is, sometimes people think, and this is what I talk about, the story and framing your paper. The best papers can kind of capture an image of something's wrong. So many people think, oh, right, the issue in China is child labor and these forced labor camps. Well, if the norm of workplaces is half of employees are suffering these abuses, that's even worse from a public health perspective, because that applies to half of the working population. So this is a very big issue that you're highlighting on here, and I think that's what I think makes this very, very important, and that's going to be very important to our narrative that we're going to come to in the introduction and in the abstract as well. The sheer magnitude of the problem is quite profound. So sometimes it's really helpful if in your paper you can get kind of that headline message and keep oriented to that, because then many other details on quality assessment or various moderators, they're important. But remember, this goes back to our session with Jocelyn, that you want to define your message and kind of stay focused on that, because that's what's going to help you publish well.